Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Supervisor, I'm sorry to take up your time.
You can do
This is awesome. This has never happened before in my life. See, this, when you get old, things happen that are good for you. Yeah. I want to wet my whistle here. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Princess Redwood Flowers, the youngest daughter of Chief Blanquea of the Sherwood Valley Band of Homo Indians. And my father's name is Lou Lockhart, if any of you remember him. This is the land acknowledgement part of the program from the Mendocino Women's Political Coalition. We wish to honor the homeland that we are on here, the First Nations people in this area, Mendocino County. We want to offer recognition and respect to counter the degree of discovery with the true story of the original people who were raised here, and to support the reconciliation efforts. The Mendocino County Women's Political Caucus acknowledges that the land where we live and work and play is unceded territory of the First Nations tribal people since time began. We are surrounded by this traditional ancestral territory, and we must strive to understand their cultural values. And I say to Willits, this is the start of becoming a community of unity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lois. Before we go any further, I want to make sure to thank people involved in putting this on today. Liam is responsible for the sound here at the Grange and opened up this building for us to get in and set it all up. So thank you for being here. And way in the back, Tim is doing the Zoom portion of this forum. So thank you, Tim, for doing that. I also want to thank other members involved in the organization of today. Madge Strong, thank you. Colleen Diamond, Ruby Burtis, and somewhat tangentially, Val Muchows. I don't want to butcher your name. Val. You told me your name and I can't. Jane. Thank you. Jane has been our timer today. Thank you. Okay, so it was suggested to me we flip a coin to see who goes first. So, Liam, will you be our coin flipper?
Sure.
Okay.
Hopefully I won't get it on the
John, heads or tails?
heads.
I think I'm gonna go for tails. Oh, looks like John goes first.
Okay, so 3 minutes opening statement, and then for prepared questions, you will each have 2 minutes to respond. We will alternate who goes first with the responses to the prepared questions. Jane will hold up a sign telling you with a time warning as to this is for the timed questions as well as your statements, so you know how much time you have left. I think that's it. Let's start. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you everyone for being here. I'm John Haschak, Supervisor for the 3rd District and running for re-election. I moved to Willits in 1969, my mother moved us here with my 2 brothers and sister, the 4 of us kids. I started in 5th grade in Willits and went through the public schools. And then I taught in the Willits schools for 30 years and ran for supervisor last time, 4 years ago. And some of the key issues that were happening were, good government, the economy, and safe communities. And every day since then, I've been working on those 3 issues. When I got into office, when I was running, one of the key issues was that the supervisors had given themselves an almost 40% raise, and the workers didn't get anything. And so I said I wasn't going to take that money, and that I would. And so what I did was I created a scholarship for students who are going into public service in the communities of Willits, Laytonville, and Covelo. Since that time, I've given $27,000 of scholarships to those students. And I'm still getting it, and I'm very proud of that. And so I've been working for the last 3.5 years on the transparency in the county, the accessibility for people to be in touch with their supervisor, and accountability. And I think that I've done a great job, but it's not just me, it's people helping me do that job. It's Madge Strong and helping, 1 minute left, helping do the town halls that keep people informed. It's the newspapers publishing my monthly updates. It's the different groups, the Sherwood Firewise, that helps put on these great events that keep the communities safe. It's the Well that put on town halls for fire. Are you ready? All of these people have come together during this time and have created some of the things that I've been working on about safe communities, about a stronger economy, and about accessibility and good government. And so I really want to appreciate the people of Mendocino County, and especially the 3rd District, for helping me do my job.
Thank you. Mr. Romero?
Hello, everybody. I'm Clay Romero. I've been in this area for about 48 years. I actually graduated from Laytonville High School in 1978. I moved to Brook Trails in 1979, and for the most part, I've been here the whole time. It's very nice to see you all. I'm thinking that the ballots already just came out. How many of you already voted? Oh, I think I still have a chance. But anyway, I think you'll find that I'm primarily a machinist in this day and age. Typically, you would not see me a whole lot because I'm inside of a building all the time, but this does not mean I'm not listening. I listen very, very carefully, actually. You'll find me, I'm principally probably a problem solver rather than a politician or a bureaucrat, and I try to look for things that can be improved upon. This is what I do on a regular basis with what I do. And I do looking forward to seeing if I could work with the other supervisors in that regard. I think you'll find that I'm probably the one guy that's very much critical of the government mandated lockdowns that came about from the COVID virus. I can well understand shutting down a country or an area for say 2 weeks or maybe a month. But after that, you're not controlling a virus, you're controlling people. I find that deeply offensive. That's part of something that rather got me going on this too. I'm also mindful of the amount of homeless people that go down my street on Shell Lane. I know they're leaving an enormous mess near the bypass, and it's something I'm looking into and very concerned about. For the most part, there's a lot of drug addiction and alcoholism that leads to this. And that seems to be the bulk of the problem with the folk there. There is some mental illness. It has to be dealt with differently, but I really should emphasize that everybody that's homeless, there's different reasons for it. For some, and most of it is the people with an addiction problem. But I also know that there's other people, like mom and dad and 2 kids, where the mom had, say, cancer and the father had a heart attack. And even though they were fully insured, the co-pays ate them up, and they ended up losing their home. So, these are things that I think about, and I'm very, very mindful of, and want to do what I can to be helpful in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So from here on going forward, we will have prepared questions, and Mr. Romero, if you would be kind enough to be the first responder to this first question. Many people believe that our drought will be continuing. What is your vision to ensure adequate available water for residents of Mendocino County?
Well, I do know that a significant amount of the water that's available is out at Lake Pillsbury. I would be in favor of raising Scott Dam to see if we can capture more of that water. There is actually funds available for doing that would be available by way of a grant to access the water bond of 2014 specifically for that purpose. I think that would probably be our best bet. But we do need to be prepared with what we have to have other areas that would be available for lakes and reservoirs to help us get past this time of drought. I know that the rains will come again. I'm pretty clear on that. But we can't wait around for too long. Otherwise, we go thirsty along with a lot of other plants and animals. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I think I differ from Mr. Romero in thinking that we're going to be out of this, because I think this is part of climate change. We're in this increased aridity. The summers are longer, the summers are hotter. We aren't getting the water that we had when I was a kid around here. So I can't say that the water's coming back, so we need to prepare for that. I've been on the drought task force with Supervisor McGorty for the past year, and we've been working every day on it. We've gotten $23.3 million from state grants and funds from the State Water Board coming into Mendocino County for water storage, for intertie systems between different water agencies, and just lots of projects, because what we haven't had in Mendocino County, besides the Ukiah Basin, which is a groundwater special area, we haven't had the knowledge of what we have in our aquifers and the quality of that water. And so we really need to work on getting grants to get that kind of knowledge, about the quality, the quantity of the water that we're dealing with, especially in Covelo, Laytonville, Willits. Another issue I've been working on is the extraction of water. And we've got issues in the Willits, Little Lake Valley, where people, even the city, are extracting water, and then it's being hauled off in water trucks into the hills. It's causing damage to our bridges, our roads, and a lot of times these are illegal cannabis grows. And so we're trying to figure out how we can regulate that for the people of Mendocino County, because we can't go on extracting water without knowing what is sustainable for that watershed. And so those are a couple issues that I've been working on. And also we need, I was just reading in the CNN this morning about California, and we're doing a great job on the North Coast about conservation of water. Southern California is doing a really poor job on it. but we need to do better than what we've been doing, even because we don't know when this water's coming back. So thank you.
Thank you. Next question, to be answered first by Mr. Haschak. How do you see the best way to address the huge deficit in the health plan fund for county workers?
Yeah, we just found out about the deficit in the health county plan for, that it's about $4 million. And we didn't know about it. It's been ongoing for the last couple of years. And so what we're looking at is using the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act money, to cover that deficit that we've had. Going forward, we need to, health benefits are rising. And with COVID and the pandemic, we've seen a real increase in people getting really sick and the cost of that. And so that's been a burden on the county, and we need to figure out how to properly fund it. We're looking at some other providers, because right now the county is self-funded for their program. But what I don't want to do is put it on the backs of the workers, because this is healthcare should be a right, and it should be something that everyone has access to. We've got people who work in healthcare, just like where I came from in education. People depend on that healthcare. You work in these jobs, you don't get paid much money. I never got paid much as a teacher, but at least you had health benefits. And for the county workers, I want to see them have health benefits, and I think everyone in our country should have health benefits that take care of us in times of need, so that we don't end up homeless and bankrupt and all that. So I think Mr. Romero and I agree on that we should have health care so people don't end up homeless, right?
I would say so, yes. As far as healthcare goes, interestingly, it's been a few years ago, but I actually studied healthcare funding extensively, and ultimately designed a healthcare funding system for the United States. It's something I have a bit of an idea on. I know, generally speaking, if there's an insurance company involved in it, it's probably going to be one strike against you, because insurance companies are always going to be more beholden to their shareholders than the patients that hopefully we would like to serve. So what I've found in all of this is that, well, the thing I did discover, and maybe some of you will find this disagreeable, but yeah, healthcare is actually not a right. And the reason I say that is because things that are rights typically do not involve money. In this case, it actually does, because when you have a doctor, if we were to have, say, a right to health care, that means that law enforcement authorities would have good reason to take a doctor or perhaps a nurse or other healthcare provider, and against their will at any hour or time to help someone out. That's what it means when you have a right. So I don't see that as actually being valid. I would like to see that healthcare is certainly well available for anybody that would like to get that. I think it's extremely important. The particular system that I came up with is where everybody were to pay a certain amount of money each month. And it's very, very important that healthcare providers are always paid up front and not through an intermediary. Generally speaking, when you have an intermediary paying your healthcare, they start calling the shots as to how what kind of health care and how much you can receive. So it's a very testy situation there. But the system I came up with is basically like a medical health care plan, similar to like if you were to go to a health club where you can work out on their Stairmaster. If you can pay so much a month to get your medical health care, it gets paid directly, and it's far, far more effective in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, what is your position on closing the Mendocino County Museum in Willits? Mr. Romero goes first this time.
You know, there's perhaps other things that could be done there, but the Mendocino County Museum I really like. I would hate to see that closed, so I think if it were up to me, I would probably, I'm sure I would keep it open. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there's an operational gap in our funding for the county right now. And so it was proposed by another supervisor at the last meeting that we could cut the museum and it would save $555,000. Well, I spoke up against that at the time because I've been working with the staff at the museum. We've been making great progress over the last year on a strategic plan. You know, and so this is what we envision for the future of the museum. And this is getting the whole collection in order, and also how to greater outreach into the community, how to represent all the communities of our county and all the geographic areas, but also, you know, this is the history of our county. So working with the staff at the museum, I had a meeting with them Wednesday, and then working with the fiscal department, it turns out that the savings for closing the doors of the museum would be something around $100,000. And that would mean, because you've still got to keep the collections going and everything. And so to cut the momentum that we have in the museum at this point would be devastating. And we all know that the museum is integral for Willits because it's connected to the art center, it's connected to the library, it's connected to Roots of Motive Power. We have all these organizations that are doing great work, and we cannot close the museum now.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't speak to the accuracy of this question, but as the reader, I'll read it and you can do what you will with it. Since Sonoma County got contracted to deal with wildlife issues in Mendocino County, we have had no service. What do you propose to take care of diseased wildlife that threaten our pets, livestock, and residents?
Good question.
Mr. Haschak, I'll go first.
Well, I think the question is a little misguided, but I will explain what's happened. And I think the intent of the question is asking, what about wildlife services in Mendocino County? What happened to it? All of that. What are we going to do as the future for this issue? About how to deal with animals that are rabid or any kind of wildlife conflict with humans. So what happened was we did have a wildlife services contract with USDA, and that was very controversial. And in the end, it turned out that wildlife services, which would trap animals, which would kill them, because that was the way they dealt with them, that they had actually quit serving Mendocino County before we cut their contract. Okay? And we just found out that a few months, when we went to cut the contract, they said, we stopped serving you already. But in the meantime, I've worked with a great group of people. We worked with Project Coyote, a woman with a doctorate who's the head of carnivore person for Project Coyote. We worked with the Farm Bureau, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Ag Department, to create a program, and we're going to present it on June 8th. And that program is going to be about, we've got a person on contract who will start on July 1st, who will deal with all the small animals. If a skunk gets under your house, if a raccoon is eating your dog food or whatever, you know, those kind of wildlife conflict issues. she'll be able to deal with. And then we're also working with a program to educate people, to provide funding for small projects. And it will also, it will educate farmers and ranchers in how to better deal with wildlife conflict. And so we're rolling that out on June 8th, and it's been great collaboration from many different groups and perspectives on this issue. I think the service we will provide will be better than it was before, and a lot cheaper.
Say, could you repeat that just
Sure.
once again?
Sure. Since Sonoma County got contracted to deal with wildlife issues in Mendocino County, we have had no service. What do you propose to take care of diseased wildlife that threaten our pets, livestock, and residents?
Well, in thinking back, when I first moved to Laytonville, my next door neighbor was Sully Pinches, who was an animal control officer, and he dealt with all kinds of things very, very quickly. I don't know what the current state of it is. I can't imagine it would be very, very expensive, but it ranged anywhere from simple, catching and relocating to where you have to put the animal to death immediately before any very serious matters occur. And this was all handled at that time. Now, why this is stopped or why it was transferred to Sonoma County for their under their contract from Mendocino County, it seems a little odd. So, but I would certainly like to see at least 1 or 2 animal control officers within this county to attend to that. And this is not an expensive thing to do. So anyway, that's about all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I do that a little? I have 10 seconds. 15 seconds.
Say, I want to hear what he has to say.
I think it's important to stick to the format.
Okay.
It just opens it up, and then what about the next time?
Okay.
So I'm going to combine these 2 questions, beginning with a specific example and then a general question. Humboldt and Sonoma counties already have their marijuana licensing policies in place. Once we get a state law giving 5 years to establish local growers before big corporations move in, yet that 5 years has nearly expired. And we still don't have a licensing policy, and big corporations are already here. What will you do to support local growers? That's the specific question. And the general question is, what is your position on the cannabis industry in the county? So local growers and in general, the whole cannabis industry. If you could address both of those,
Okay, shall I start?
please.
My position is I am supportive of the local cannabis industry. I think currently that we have a very large oversupply condition right now, which has made the value of the cannabis that's being grown very, very, very low, and the amount of money that's available there is not compatible with what the state of California is asking. At least last time I heard, they wanted $165 a pound, something like that. I'm not actually a grower, but I am a business guy, and I take great offense to any sort of condition that harms the people that are legitimately trying to deal with the product legally. So I'm very much in favor of trying to help them out as much as I can. But as a supervisor, the best that can possibly be done is not have the county be abusive or otherwise demanding money of them up front when they never got the money in the first place. And so I'm very sensitive to that. I'm very, very kindly when somebody comes across something like this. It would be the same thing if, say, we had a lot of wheat growing and there was some terrible cataclysmic natural event that destroyed their crop. I'm not going to go back and chew on the guy. It just seems a little heartless to me. Well, thank you.
All right, going back to the other question, I just wanted to finish up the program we're trying to implement is a non-lethal exclusionary wildlife services program. And if there is a problem with a skunk or rabid animal, fox or whatever, and people have that concern, call animal control. We have animal control, and I was instrumental in moving animal control from the sheriff's office over to animal care. So now we'll have this program, the non-lethal exclusionary program, and animal control all under the same umbrella of people who really care about animals. So with that, I'll go on to cannabis. And, you know, I'm very proud to be endorsed by the Mendocino Cannabis Alliance and the Covelo Cannabis Advocacy Group, because they've seen that, you know, I've worked very hard to support the mom and pops growers of this county. What we don't need is, and I'm proud that I was the lone vote in standing up against this expansion and the corporate takeover of Mendocino County for cannabis. And the way that succeeded was that the people got out there and got the signatures to get the referendum, and then the four other supervisors then realized that maybe that wasn't the right direction and wasn't what the people of Mendocino County wanted. Okay, so I think that it was a historic event in Mendocino County, the third time a referendum had derailed an ordinance like that. And we need to do more of that. We need to keep it in the perspective of what's good for the people of Mendocino County.
Thank you. Next question, what is your vision for economic development for Mendocino County?
Okay, so with economic development, it's a critical issue right now because we're seeing it at the national level. We have issues with the economy, and we're seeing it certainly, you know, at the county level. And with Mendocino County, you know, when I came into office, I said there were 4 key issues. That one was career and technical education. Coming from an education background, you know, I believe that we need to provide this education for the people of Mendocino County, whether you're in, you know, K-12 or TK-12, or, you know, an adult. You know, we need to provide those educational opportunities. One of the things I worked with Senator McGuire on and Superintendent Hutchins was that we worked on career and technical education throughout the county, and also we got this paramedic EMT program started at Mendocino College. The first day they had slots for 24 people. We had 36 people at the door waiting to show, you know, hoping that they could get into the program. With that kind of training is key for the safety of our communities, for the ambulance service and all that. But we also have issues of broadband. We have issues of water. You know, without sustainable water, we can't do community development, economic growth, because we just can't grow without the water. And cannabis. You know, the cannabis has been, the economy is down, the price of cannabis is way down, but it's an instrumental program or economic aspect of our county. We need to support them as much as possible. The state's given us $18 million to get people to their annual licenses, and we need to make sure that those people can get their annual licenses, because we all know that the car dealerships, the restaurants, the schools all depend on people and this part of our economy, the cannabis industry. So I support all those 4 main things of economic development.
Yeah, in terms of economic development, I very much would like to see things like the cannabis industry come back. I know it's very, very difficult at the moment because of an oversupply condition that they currently are suffering with. I think that we need more businesses, kind of like Metal FX or Factory Pipe Products in Ukiah. These are very, very good manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing, as it's something I've been in for many, many, many years, it's critically important to have that. Without that, all the other jobs that are service-based would suffer. Now, I don't mean to say that service jobs are not important, and they really are. But you cannot run your entire community off of service jobs alone, because you'll end up with a condition where the money goes around in a circle and it will decline in value by the rate of inflation. Only in manufacturing, which is the farming, the agriculture, the machining, actually even a restaurant, because they put food together and give you something for it. All these things are extremely important because they actually generate real wealth from something that was otherwise worth much, much less. And so I would be very interested in going after that. I think we have a fair amount of things going on in the educational part to support that, of which I'm grateful. But in the end, you need the guy that wants to put forth his money to invest, to get the machinery or the equipment or whatever he needs together in order to establish something that's going to create a new product. And that will be so welcome and drive the economy forward. Thank you.
In the April 28th, 2022 issue of the Willits Weekly, there was an article titled County Budget Woes. It states that there are currently 400 vacant positions at the county level, of which 287 are being recruited for. Do you have any thoughts on the number, having so many unfilled positions at the county level, or any other thoughts related to this in general?
Well, interesting. This actually is the first I've heard of that particular issue. I know that the economy has been very difficult. I know that the Sheriff's Department has been actively recruiting people to fill positions at the Sheriff's Department. But to that extent, I didn't know about that. I think that there are a lot of people that are out of work that are I'm certain if they went to the county with the proper credentials could be considered for their employment. But beyond that, I'm going to have to pass on that before I look into it further. I tend to look at things before I make a complete decision on it. Thank you.
Yeah, the county has a lot of positions that are open and a lot of services that are being delayed for people because those positions aren't open. What we aren't filled. I mean, I'm on an ad hoc committee to hire a human resource director. This is a critical position in our county, that oversees the 1,100 employees of the county. Human resource director. We looked at it. We put it out for, published it with the California State Association of Counties, the other agencies, or at the state level, and we put it out to universities. We need this human resource director. We didn't get it. We got maybe 1 or 2 replies, and then they ended up backing out. Then we went to a headhunter, and we said, we need, your help, $25,000, what's it gonna cost? And they said, we don't even wanna take you on. They said, we're too busy, we can't take you on. And so the issue is, we've got demographic changes in our society where a lot of people are retiring, resigning, whatever with the pandemic. We have people that haven't come back to work. we have people that have moved away from the public service sector, and so we need to really work to install that sense that working for the county is a noble endeavor, and that it's a good career. And so that goes across, planning and building services. It goes through all the agencies of our county that we can't hire the people. And, I went to the sheriff's hiring fair the other night and was very impressed that there were like half a dozen people who were interested in getting jobs with it. And that's the kind of outreach we need to do. And the sheriff did it here in Willits.
Next question, what can you do to address homelessness? Senator McGuire said in a recent town hall that many safety regulations have been suspended in order to build housing to address the homeless issue. Doesn't that set up tenements and slums from the outset?
Yeah, I'm not aware of what Senator McGuire is talking about, but I have been working with Senator McGuire. We actually toured the Project Home Key in Ukiah, which is on Orchard Street. It used to be the Best Western, and he and I went and looked at what was going on there. It was a state-funded project, and the county jumped on it, and we approved that project. In maybe 6 months, we had people living in the converted motel. And so there's a lot of things we need to do for homelessness. There's that Project Home Key. Other areas of the county have issues, not just Ukiah. But we also need to look at what we can do for creating housing. And we need to look at what our planning and building code are, what we can do to, the state has given us more leniency in allowing, multiple houses on a residence land use area that's only able for one house, but now they say, well, you can build an additional dwelling unit there. And so we need to look at some of those ways of taking advantage of the new state laws, because it's a problem throughout the state, it's a problem throughout the country. But in Mendocino County, where wages aren't that high, but still the cost of living and housing is very high, we need to see what we can do. I've also worked with a professor from UC Davis on, housing trust. If the county can buy the land, then someone else can build it. It would take away that cost for people. And we also need to look at cooperative housing and some of those other models that would allow people to get equity into the home without having to spend $500,000.
Yeah, the issue of homelessness, it's near and dear to me as well. I'm very keenly aware that the reason someone is homeless is, it varies. Now, from my reading, what I'm seeing is about roughly 3/4 of the people that are homeless, it's because of alcoholism or drug abuse, and some amount of mental illness that actually harkens back to the whatever their addiction is from. For those people, this is a very, very, very difficult thing to do, because now it is no longer a housing problem. Because if they could function normally, it would rectify itself fairly quickly. But for them, it comes down to where they're going to have to be, in some ways, going through some type of program or something where they are no longer going to be strung out on whatever their drug of choice is. Now, this is also very important because they also can't necessarily be around the rest of the public, because they have a long-standing history of this, when there's this behavior going on, of breaking into other people's houses and cars to steal stuff to get their next fix. That's most of it. But as I've said before, the other part of it, where it is a housing problem, I think there's something that can be done here. And having affordable housing built that's a whole lot easier to work with. I'm talking about relatively smaller types of places where they can move into and inhabit fairly quickly. And I think this is something that can be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What are your thoughts on the CEO versus CAO position? So CEO, the Chief Executive Officer in the county, the top position. I believe that was put in place in the 90s. The top position used to be CAO, Chief Administrative Official position. And there's different ways of running the county based on what that position is, whether it's CEO versus CAO. So what are your thoughts on having it as a CEO position or a CAO position? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought the CEO position was a little troubling in that it made certain aspects, actually significant aspects of the county not under the guise of the supervisors. I think the supervisors are the final word, and they should be. They're elected. It's an important thing to where if there's any sort of problem going on in the county, it ultimately would come to the understanding of the supervisors. But to my knowledge, I've got the breakdown of the organizational chart here in front of me. The Board of Supervisors, they're the people that would appoint the county council, the child support services, the public defender, and as well as probation, air quality management, farm advisor, and water agency, which is as it should be. However, the chief executive officer was appointing the person that would head up health and human services, the behavioral health, the public health, the social services. I see a position here for transportation, human resources, and such. There's a certain point there where some of these people that are appointed there by the CEO, it does create a problem. I would really, really much rather see a CAO, which is the county administrative officer, that would answer to the supervisors rather than the supervisors knuckling under to the CEO. So that's my best bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was a hot topic when I was elected, and the issue was, did the CEO model that we have currently and have had for the last 12 years or so, was it giving too much power to the CEO? And that's a question that still is being dealt with. Right now, the CEO, retired in March, and we have an interim CEO for the next year until we can figure out what we want to do. There was a proposal brought back from the ad hoc committee working on this issue, and they brought back that we should keep the CEO model, but also interview the department heads once a year. Okay. I didn't think that looked at the big picture enough, and that we need to look at the org chart. We need to look at, what other departments would be better served by having direct oversight from the board. We took on the cannabis department, we put it under the board's purview and directly under the oversight of the board. I don't know how well that has worked. We have other departments that might be better off underneath the board, such as the general services department, the clerk of the board, and also human resources. Those are critical departments for how the county runs. So maybe it could be a hybrid where we do have a CEO where one person's responsible for how the county does business, but for some of these areas that the board would be having direct oversight. Because I think that if you give it all to the CEO, then things sometimes, and right now I feel like we have a a good person in the CEO position, but sometimes things can get a little, tilted. And we had issues in the 3rd district where we didn't have really good representation for a while. And so people felt like the CEO took over too much power, and it was because we didn't have the strong representation. But I feel like in the last year, well, since I've been on the board, I think it's tilted back the other way, where the board has taken back power, and we are working together, we're stronger, and I think we're better represented. The people are better represented because of it.
Would you support funding should Mendocino County experience an increase in the need for women's health care services?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. For $500,000? Would you support funding should Mendocino County experience an increase in the need for women's health care services?
Yes, I think that one of the things that we need to do as a county is provide for the health of all of our people. And so if we could get funding for better health care for women's issues, then let's do it. One of the things that I've been working on, and I've been working for the last 6 months with a group of really dedicated people who represent the community, the rural health centers, the First Five, the Adventist system, and others. We're trying to create a community health worker program. And what we did in Willits with the pandemic was we started the Nuestra Alianza and the Promotores de Salud program underneath Nuestra Alianza. That provided this direct outreach to people to get them the information about the pandemic, to get them educated about how to stay safe, and then also to get vaccinated. Okay, that was a very successful program. The community health worker program I've been working on with this group of dedicated people is kind of trying to expand that pilot program from Willits to the county. And if we can expand the outreach of these kind of programs where people go into communities that are normally resistant or underrepresented or not really totally taken care of, disparate incomes and disparate health. Anyway, they're not getting the treatment they need, and so that's what the Nuestra Alianza program did, and we're trying to do it overall. If it's women's issues, then yes, I'd certainly support that increase in getting that resource to them too.
Could you read that once again, please?
Sure. Would you support funding should Mendocino County experience an increase in the need for women's health care services? If there was an increase in the need for women's health care services, would you support funding for that?
No, and I'll tell you why. This comes under the heading of the government should only do those things for the people that the people simply could not do for themselves. And I think that this is an area where the people can do it for themselves. This is not a very difficult thing. Now, I can understand that people have to have easy access to medical facilities for their health care. And this matters not whether they're a man, woman, or child. And I would never differentiate between any of those, as I think it would be perhaps inappropriate to do so. I really think that it's this is an area where I think that the people absolutely are capable of doing this themselves. And anytime you have a request of this nature, I would probably not support it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next question, as a supervisor, will you enforce state laws even though you may or may not agree with them? Why or why not?
Okay, if there's state laws that I disagree with, ultimately when it comes down to it, I would really much rather be representing and looking out for the best interests of the people that I represent over some meddlesome state agency. I'm here to represent you. And I'm certainly not going to be put upon by any agency, whether it's state or federal. Now, I may not have a choice in the matter. Maybe they've got something over my head that's gonna crush me as surely as a rock hitting me in the head. But ultimately, when it comes right down to it, I'm still a citizen of this county, of this state, of the United States. And I will pen a letter that will be in the best interest of the people, that they are not put upon by a law that I find to be harmful or detrimental to you. Thank you.
Well, that was a good point, and the question is, would we abide by the state laws? You know, I'm very proud to be endorsed by Senator McGuire, Assemblymember Wood, and our local and state representatives. And if we have a law or a proposed bill that is detrimental to Mendocino County, we need to be working with our state agencies. I'm the county representative for the California State Association of Counties. That's where we get our input and say, this does not work for the county. We've had to do that many, many times, and that's how legislation gets built. Also the RCRC, which represents the rural counties of California. So through that process, we hope to get laws that serve Mendocino County. I mean, if a law is passed, we have to abide by it because it's state law. But the process is we try to amend it, make it so it serves our needs way beforehand. We have a legislative platform in the county that we're always adjusting and depending on the circumstances of the county. Right now we just had the state budget come out, and there were some things such as the elimination of the cannabis cultivation tax, which the county of Mendocino had promoted and lobbied for. Okay, and so Senator McGuire, I've worked closely with him about this SB 1074, which kind of did a lot of the same thing about getting rid of this cultivation tax. So that's how the process works, and so I'm very proud to be endorsed by those people because it's a collaborative effort at this level of governance. Making things work, hearing what the people say, taking it to our state representatives, and back and forth until we get something that we can live with.
Next question, what is your position on enforcing Measure V, leaving intentionally killed trees standing? Measure B.
Yeah, Measure B is the hack and squirt issue. The county passed it, and I was on an ad hoc to work on what to do with it, because for a while, before I was elected, the county would not pursue it, okay? With the ad hoc that I was on, we met with representatives from the environmental community, we met with representatives from the big timber companies too, and we were trying to work out a way of moving forward with it. My commitment at the time was to make sure, we were waiting on an opinion from the state attorney general, and we weren't getting it. So I said I was going to push for that, and when Supervisor Williams and I were in Sacramento, we hand-delivered the letter from Mendocino County requesting an opinion from the attorney general. Shortly after that, the Attorney General's office said, we have a conflict of interest. We can't opine on this issue. And so it was really up to the county to decide, what are you gonna do? Are you going to enter into a lawsuit against MRC and the big timber companies that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars? Or are you going to respect the will of the people and enforce this Measure B? The issue was hack and squirt, but the measure was written so it just created nuisance. It allowed the county to declare a nuisance of dead standing trees. So it wasn't going to eliminate the issue of squirting pesticides in our forest. And that's what I think most people wanted, and it's very difficult. So I guess the bottom line is that the issue became more convoluted the more I got into it, and I wish that I had a really clear answer to it, but I don't at this point. Anyway.
Now, on this, and you said it was Measure B?
V.
V, as in victory.
Oh, victory, oh, okay. I find it rather troubling why they would use the hack and squirt method here. Is there something about these trees that are so valueless that you just might as well just destroy them? I don't understand that. I would think that these trees could be used for a lot of other things. So how this came about, or why they were doing this, and the various considerations that the timber companies have, I would be really interested to hear, because I want to see everything get used in the best possible, most efficient way, and not just simply poisoned and destroyed. So the other thing I would like to know is, when they say hack and squirt, I need to know what kind of poison they're using. What's going on here? Is this something that's extremely harmful, or?
Kind of like Agent Orange, the massacre.
Well, if they're using Agent Orange, that's a big problem. So, I would want to certainly look into this a little bit more than that, and I certainly, well, as much as I appreciate, like we were talking about going and working at the or talking and getting an opinion from the state, I can well understand there's a certain point where you just have to say, that's it, we're gonna do this. And that's just part of being a leader. And you have to go ahead with what you need to do rather than wait. Time is money. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm gonna ask two more questions, we're running out of time, so. First one, what experience do you have managing a multi-million-dollar budget? Mr. Romero.
What experience
Do you have managing a multi-million-dollar budget?
Oh, I have no experience. I've never dealt with a multi-million-dollar budget.
Thank you.
Well, going back to my years in education, I was very involved in the California Teachers Association, and at all levels. I was involved at the state level, and I was on the budget committee for California Teachers Association, CTA. Val was also on that committee at one point. I think I took her seat from her. And I ended up being the chair of the budget committee for 7 years. It's the longest chairmanship in the history of CTA, 150-year history. And so we had over $300 million budget, and we balanced it every year, and we also had healthy reserves, because with that kind of budget it is very tricky. Now I'm dealing with the county budget, which is also around $300 million. Only about 70 million of that is discretionary, and I feel like we could use a lot more discretionary funds, because it really ties the hands of what the supervisors can do, even with best intentions. And so that's kind of my experience with budgets, you know, the California Teachers Association, and now currently with the county.
Thank last question before your closing statements. How would you move the county to be part of climate solutions?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for ending it on that. I think that, we have climate change with us, and we're living in this age that if we don't do anything, we are all going to perish from it. And so we're feeling the effects every day with our forest fires, with drought, all those issues. So I'm very proud that the Board of Supervisors has been unanimous in moving certain things forward. We put $2 million into solar panels and funding. We're moving on electric vehicle chargers. I'm on MCOG, which is the Mendocino Council of Governments, and very much pushing for electric vehicle charger stations throughout the county because that's the future we're going towards. And I've also been working with Supervisor Jurdy on this renewable energy network, and that would provide rebates for people for energy efficient appliances. So if you wanted to buy a new stove that's energy efficient, or heat pumps, or whatever it is, then this would provide great rebates through the CPUC, which is the Utilities Corporation, or whatever, for the state of California. So those are issues, and I think that also we started the Mendocino County Climate Action Advisory Council. And that group has been working diligently on providing advice to the board on how to make the county greener and more sustainable and to deal with climate action issues. And so those are all issues, I think that the board has done a lot of things in the last 4 years to combat climate change and to make this a better world for all of us in the future.
Yeah, I'm certainly well aware of the reports I've heard. I'm certainly very mindful of the environment. I don't want to see things be destroyed. I want to see if we can preserve things as much as I can. But I'm also aware that as late as 1985, it was well understood that we were going into a global cooling. Now, just, that far ago is not that far. Usually when we're dealing with something that's catastrophic, as they were talking about, which was formerly called global warming and is now called global climate change, it has not in fact shifted. This is what I'm finding. I think it's probably ill-conceived. I think it's a mistake to be addressing something like this and identifying money to be spent on something that ultimately would lead to no fruition at all. I think that it's something where we really need to take a good, hard, long look at ourselves here. Because when you're talking about the globe, what about the incredible environmental damage that's going on in China? They don't seem to be even remotely concerned with what we're calling climate change. And you'll find this in many other parts of the world too. And the other part of it is, as far as man-made global climate change, do you think if we could actually change the climate significantly enough, we could use that to our advantage to increase, say, growing seasons or something like this? Well, it hasn't happened, and we're operating on mostly based off of computer models, which, as you all know, if you don't get the information right, well, you can't expect the information good to come out. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are at the point of closing statements, and John, you gave the opening statement first, yes? Who did?
Did I?
Yeah.
You won the coin toss.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mr. Romero, would you provide us with your closing statement first?
Yeah, let's see what I can come up with. Something entertaining and fun. Well, you know, I'm thinking it was probably a very good thing that I went and actually filed. Otherwise, we'd have a really boring election.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I think that was probably a good thing to do. I would like to see how this is going to turn out. I think I have views that are different than John's here, but I think we're also generally respectful of others, and we want to do our very best in ensuring that, although we have political views that are differing, in the end, we are all people. I don't hate this man over here or this woman over here. I think about you too, and I care about you very much. I know that there's different ways how we view the world and how we view our what we do, but in the end, and I think I summed this up in a statement dealing with the cannabis industry. We can take this whole 42-page document here. What's that? 10A.17. Oh, I got it right that time. 10A.17. And if we were to sum that up in one simple phrase, it is: when you grow cannabis, don't irritate your neighbor. You know, there's a certain point where we need to kind of simplify things and just make it easier so as people don't need an attorney to figure out what they're going to do next. I don't think that's asking for too much. Well, anyway, I do appreciate it, and I hope you vote for me. It'll be coming up on at least the final day is on June 7th, and you can see my website at clayformendocino.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you everyone for coming out this afternoon and spending this beautiful spring day in the Grange, and listening to superintendent candidates and also the candidates for 3rd District Supervisor. You know, I want to thank the Mendocino Women's Political Coalition, the the Grange, the League of Women Voters, and everyone who helped put this on, because this is what democracy is about. You know, and I appreciate having this chance to talk with everyone. You know, when I came into office, there were these 3 issues: good governance, the economy, and safer communities. And I think that I've worked really hard on all 3 of those things throughout the last 3.5 years. And I've been endorsed by Sheriff Kendall. I've been endorsed by former Sheriff Tom Allman. I've been endorsed by Ellen and David Drell, the Mendocino Cannabis Alliance. You know, I've been endorsed by State Senator McGuire, Assemblymember Wood, you know, people. Okay, and the Brook Trails Board was unanimous in their support of me. The 3 out of the 5 members of the Willits City Council, you know, the chair of the Round Valley Area MAC, the Municipal Advisory Council, endorsing me. The chair of the Caddo Tribe in Laytonville, the chair of the Laytonville Area MAC. You know, so I've got this over 150 endorsements, and I appreciate that, because it's recognition of the work that we're all doing together. When we work together, we can get things done, whether it's creating these emergency access routes or more trust in government and greater communication. It's all about, you know, what I've seen in the last 4 years is people working together. And so thank you, John Haschak, 3rd District Supervisor. I ask for your vote.
So I'd like to thank both candidates for being here today on this lovely day. We really appreciate your coming to be with us. And everyone else who showed up, thank you for your questions. Someone sent me, this is not a question, but the last card I received, to tell everyone to look eastward eastward at 8:30 tonight for the red moon lunar eclipse. All right, and don't forget to vote, don't forget to sign the library petition. And onward we go, thank you.